Okay, 8th grade, today we're doing pages 52 to 60 in our packet, which takes us to the end of our packet. And you guys should be getting a new packet this week or the beginning of next week. So we'll be doing pages 52 to 55 together, and then you guys will do 56 to 60 on your own as an assessment. So the questions that we're looking at here are going to be kind of a combination of everything that we've talked about throughout the packet and some stuff that we've discussed before. So we're going to jump right into that right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to read this passage here, and then we will answer the questions that follow together. So the passage is called Cars Without Gasoline Are Here. And it's by Caroline Rolato. People often feel as if the use of a gasoline engine has been integral to the automobile for as long as cars have been on the road. Justifiably, this makes people resist change. They feel that if the gasoline engine disappears, automobiles will never be as fast, safe, or comfortable as they are now. Much like people must have felt as the car replaced the horse-drawn carriage. But in fact, the first automobiles were really locomotives modified with tires. They were powered mostly by steam engines. Some early cars ran on strange fuels like gunpowder and coal gas, and some early cars were even powered by simple batteries and electric motors. So the history of the early automobile is a history of changing technology and of trying things and seeing if they work. Today, technology is changing because political and environmental concerns are forcing manufacturers away from the gasoline engine. The Earth's survival depends on our response to energy issues today. Plus, the price of gas is rising, which means new technologies must be invented to utilize other forms of energy. Because of these factors, we are experiencing a return to that glorious era of experimentation. In the same way as the early automobile inventors were trying things and seeing if they work. Biodiesel is a chemical very much like the diesel fuel that trucks and some cars use. I'm going to fix this really quick. There we go. That trucks and some cars use, but instead of being made from crude oil, it is made from renewable sources such as vegetable oil or animal fats. Biodiesel can provide much better fuel efficiency than gasoline. It can be made anywhere. Plus, many cars that now use diesel can be converted to run on biodiesel, so biodiesel could be very cost effective. Ethanol is another fuel-based alternative to gasoline power. Bioethanol, made from many common crops grown in the United States, could be a main fuel for the future of transportation. Ethanol is already added to fuels to reduce the amount of gasoline our cars consume. Another set of alternative technologies uses natural gas or locally made biogas to power cars. Though natural gas is itself a fossil fuel, it burns very cleanly, so it does not pollute as much gasoline. Biogas made from decomposing organic matter is a more environmentally conscious choice that has the same advantages. Hybrid technology allows another route to go gasoline-free driving. A hybrid car uses a small conventional engine but gets added power through one or more electric motors linked to a set of batteries. The batteries are charged by excess power from the engine and from energy recaptured from braking. The electric motor supplements the conventional engine during peak loads, often providing full power at low speeds. The conventional engine takes over at higher speeds, often around 30 miles per hour. The most successful commercial hybrids today use a gasoline engine, but the technology could easily be used with biodiesel, bioethanol, or biogas to provide a fossil fuel-free transportation technology. So far, we've been looking at vehicles that represent small improvements, but some new technologies are more boldly changing the face of motoring. The fully electric car does away with the conventional motor altogether, using only electric motors and battery packs. However, the limited state of battery technology today means that such vehicles rarely have real-life ranges of more than 100 miles. They can also take many hours to charge up, but there is another option. The plug-in hybrid is very much like the normal hybrid technology, but it adds the capacity to be charged from a wall plug like an electric car. The way drivers can charge the cars overnight and have them ready in the morning. Such vehicles generally use the electric motor almost exclusively until the battery pack is exhausted. This means that the car may use little fuel or no fuel at all during shorter trips. Batteries are heavy, and as we've seen, they have short range and long charging times. If we want to avoid pollution completely, there are 2 revolutionary fuel technologies also being deployed. For short trips inside of cities, vehicles powered off of compressed air could be valuable. Such a vehicle would emit no pollutants. It could be pumped up at stations throughout the city and would provide ample power for urban environments. For longer trips, hydrogen could be used as fuel. Hydrogen can be safely stored in a compressed tank or incorporated into cutting-edge materials. It can be combined with oxygen from the air to produce energy that can be used to power a car. The only emission from a hydrogen-powered vehicle would be pure water. Plus, hydrogen is the most abundant natural element in the universe, so there's plenty of it around. Future road cars will combine many of these technologies to provide maximum efficiency, but one thing is certain, cars will surely get better for the consumer. So now let's take a look at these questions. Again, the goal for today is just to assess what we've been talking about already, everything that we've covered in this packet. It's just going to take all of those things and put them together here. So we've talked about context clues, Greek and Latin word parts, analyzing theme, central idea, all of those kinds of things. So this is just to assess your understanding on those topics that we've already discussed. So for question 1, there's 2 parts. So we answer part A, and then based on our answer for part A, we answer part B. So let's take a look at that. It says, which meaning of the word hybrid best defines the use of the word in the passage? So what we need to do first is we can find the word hybrid in the packet. I keep saying package. I'm going to search it here just to make it a little bit faster. Okay, so we see hybrid a lot here. In paragraph 7 and 8. So if you look down here, hybrid technology, hybrid car, hybrids. And then in paragraph 8, we see the plug-in hybrid is very much like the normal hybrid. So which meaning of the word hybrid best defines the use in the passage? We're going to look at paragraph 7, but let's read our answers first. The offspring of 2 different biological beings, a word that contains elements of 2 or more languages, a custom born out of the interaction of 2 or more cultures, or something that draws on multiple sources of power. If we read it, we could probably just answer this right away because I think we know many of these have nothing to do with what we're talking about here. But let's go ahead and read it anyway. It says, hybrid technology allows another route to gasoline-free driving. A hybrid car uses a small conventional engine but gets added power through 1 or more electric motors linked to a set of batteries. So it's powered both off of gas and off of power is what it's saying here, electric power. So if we look back at our answers, which one of these says something about using 2 different types of power to run the engine? Or just using multiple sources of power in general? Well, D says something that draws on multiple sources of power. So we know that D is our answer here. Now, if we went back and looked at these other ones, this was probably one of the easiest questions we've had in the whole packet. The offspring of 2 different biological beings. Well, hybrid can mean that, like a hybrid between 2 different types of animals, right? But is that what it's talking about in this passage? No. Is it talking about a word that contains elements of 2 or more languages? No. Is it a custom born out of an interaction of 2 or more cultures? No. It's talking about drawing on multiple sources of power. So that one was pretty easy to answer just by reading the article, not even having to go back and find the word hybrid. But we will go back and look at it in this case. So now we need to answer part B using our answer for part A. So we said that hybrid means something that draws on multiple sources of power. So now our question is, which of the phrases from the passage best helps the reader understand the meaning of the word hybrid? So if we look at these here, I think we can immediately eliminate A. So why can we eliminate A? Well, we can eliminate A because we know that if we're talking about something that draws on multiple sources of power, replacing something has nothing to do with drawing on multiple sources. Okay, so now let's answer part B. So part B says, which of the phrases from the passage best helps the reader understand the meaning of the word hybrid? So if we look at A, I think we can eliminate that one right off the bat because if the definition is something that draws on multiple sources of power, replacing something has nothing to do with drawing on multiple sources, right? So B, we have supplements the conventional engine. So supplements would be like kind of like it works alongside of the conventional engine. So something else is working alongside the conventional engine. Well, I think right away we know that this is probably the best answer, right? But we can take a look at these other two and figure out why they're not good, okay? So use the electric motor. Well, that's only talking about using one sort of power, right? It's not talking about using another type of power. Now, this only mentions one type of power, but we know that there's another one associated because it says supplements the conventional engine. So something else is working alongside the conventional engine. And then it says combined with oxygen. Well, that just really doesn't explain anything to us, really, out of context. So yeah, I think B is our best answer here. So now we're going to go to page 54. So it says, which of the following sentences from Cars Without Gasoline Are Here suggests that the development of green technology is being influenced by forces outside of the auto industry? Well, first of all, what does it mean when it says green technology? Is it talking about technology that is literally the color green? No, right? Green is like it's better for the environment. It's a more environmentally friendly option, that sort of thing. That's what green means. So which of these suggests that the development of green technology is being influenced by forces outside of the auto industry? So our first option is, so the history of the early automobile is a history of changing technology and of trying things and seeing if they work. B, today, technology is changing because political and environmental concerns are forcing manufacturers away from the gasoline engine. C, ethanol is already added to fuels to reduce the amount of gasoline our cars consume. Or D, future road cars will combine many of these technologies to provide maximum efficiency. So I want to start by looking at C and D, because I think we can eliminate both of these right off the bat. So now let's talk about why we can do that. Well, it says that it's being influenced by forces outside of the auto industry. Well, neither one of these is really talking about influencing anything. Ethanol is already added to fuels to reduce the amount of gasoline our cars consume. That doesn't talk about any outside forces. It doesn't talk about anything outside of the auto industry. It only talks about the fact that ethanol is already added in our fuels. That doesn't say anything about what the question is asking. Future road cars will combine many of these technologies to provide maximum efficiency. Again, it doesn't talk about anything outside of the auto industry. It only talks about the auto industry. We're looking for mention of something that is not related to the auto industry, right? And this only talks about future cars and how they'll provide maximum efficiency. Again, it's just not related to the question. So we look at A and B. It says the history of the early automobile is a history of changing technology and trying things and seeing if they work. Again, is anything other than the auto industry mentioned, or does it only talk about cars? It's only talking about cars in the automobile industry, right? So we can eliminate A. So now we know that B is our answer. But let's talk about why, okay? So if we look, it says, today technology is changing because political and environmental concerns are forcing manufacturers away from the gasoline engine. Where are we seeing that mention of the other factors or the other forces in this answer? Well, we see political and environmental, right? Do politics and environment, is that in the auto industry? No, those are two things that are outside forces impacting the auto industry, but they are not part of the auto industry. So that's where we get our influenced by forces outside of the auto industry element there. So the next question says, we'll just leave that one up there because there's no question at the bottom. One of the author's main claims in Cars Without Gasoline Are Here is that the limited range of the electric car can be overcome. Which statement from the passage best supports this statement? So we're talking about the fact that the range of the electric car can't go far enough, and that we should be able to make it go farther, that we can make it go farther. So it says, A, the Earth's survival depends on our response to energy issues today. B, the fully electric car does away with the conventional motor altogether, using only electric motors and battery packs. The plug-in hybrid is very much like normal hybrid technology, but it adds the capacity to be charged from a wall plug like an electric car, or such a vehicle would emit no pollutants. Well, let's go ahead and eliminate our answers first. Well, if we look at A, we're looking for something that says that even though the range of the electric car isn't very far, there is a way that we can fix that. The car can't go very far, but there's a way we can fix it, right? So if we look at A, that has nothing to do with how far the electric car can go or a fix for how the electric car could go farther, right? So we know that A is not an answer. Now B says the fully electric car does away with the conventional motor altogether, using only electric motors and battery packs. Well, yeah, that tells us how the electric car is better for the environment because it doesn't use the conventional motor, but does that tell us how the car could be more efficient, or how we can overcome the fact that it can't go very far or that you have to charge it a lot? That sort of thing. No. Let's jump down to D. So D says such a vehicle would emit no pollutants. We can just immediately X that off because that's not talking anything about how the car can't go very far. It's just talking about the environmental factors. So if we look at C, it says the plug-in hybrid is very much like normal hybrid technology, but it adds the capacity to be charged from a wall plug like an electric car. Well, here we see that the plug-in hybrid, the regular hybrids, which is an electric car, they can't go very far between charges, and they have to be charged a lot. And it's kind of hard to be able to charge those things. Now, the plug-in hybrid, you can just charge it from a wall plug next to your house, and you can charge it more easily, which is how the electric car overcomes its range, right? We're overcoming the fact that it can't go very far between charges by inventing the plug-in hybrid. So that is our answer to that one. Now we're on our last page here before you guys do independent practice. It says the author of Cars Without Gasoline Are Here claims that new technologies are changing the way modern automobiles are fueled. Which three details are irrelevant to this claim? What does irrelevant mean? If something's relevant, then that means that it is important to the claim. So if it's irrelevant, kind of tapping in on those Greek and Latin word parts we talked about, ir would mean like not or the opposite, similar to like d or dis. So it's not relevant, which means it's not important to the claim. It has nothing to do with the claim. So the claim is that new technologies are changing the way modern automobiles are fueled. So which three details are irrelevant to this claim? Some early cars ran on gunpowder, and coal gas. Is that important? Does that show a change in anything? I would say, yeah, it does. For now, I think that we'll leave that on as a possible answer because it's telling us the way that cars used to run, and then we can compare it to how they run now, right? So we'll leave that on as an answer. And I'm going to go ahead and mark out the right answers because those are the ones that are irrelevant. So the survival of Earth hinges on our response to the energy crisis. So does this have to do... Now, keep in mind, this isn't talking about, what are 3 things that they didn't talk about in the paper? They did talk about this in the paper, but does it have to do with the fact that new technologies are changing the way that new cars are fueled? No. So this is going to be one of our answers because it has nothing to do with how new technologies are changing the way that modern cars are fueled. So biogas powers cars and does not pollute as much as gasoline. Okay, it's talking about modern technology. It is talking about how it doesn't pollute, which isn't relevant, but the fact that they're talking about biogas cars is important to the way that our cars are fueled. So we'll leave that as a possible answer, and we'll come back to it. D says, the fully electric car, or a possible, when I say a possible answer, I mean like it is relevant. So it's not one of our answers. I'm sorry. That was kind of confusing. The fully electric car is powered only by electric motors and battery packs. Well, that's talking all about new technologies, right? So that's probably going to be relevant to the claim that new technologies change the way automobiles are fueled. Hydrogen can be combined with oxygen from the air to power a car. Okay, that's talking about new technology, which means we're probably going to have to return to one of our other answers, which is fine, because that's why we read through all of our answers first, because sometimes it might seem like it's a good answer, and then maybe once we think about it, it's really not. So hydrogen can be combined with oxygen from the air to power a car. That's talking about a way that we could power cars with new technology and that sort of thing. But if we look at F, it says hydrogen is the most plentiful element in the universe. That doesn't have anything to do with new technologies. So speaking of new technologies, I think our last answer, take a second and think about, of these 4 that are left, which one would probably be the most irrelevant out of all of those. So I personally would say that A is probably going to be the most irrelevant, and I'll tell you why. And that's because, and I'm going back on what I said, because I said it first, well, maybe it's relevant, right? But that's because I hadn't read all the answers. We need to read all the answers first. Some early cars ran on gunpowder and gasoline. Well, if we really think about that, it doesn't say anything about new technologies, right? We're talking about how new technologies are changing the way that modern automobiles are fueled. Well, this talks about how early cars ran, but it doesn't say, we had a comma here and then it said something about new technologies, then it would still be relevant and how that's changed from the past. But it doesn't tell us how it's changed from the past. It just tells us how things were in the past. So that would probably be the most irrelevant out of those last 4. So that's going to be our answer there. So now on this last one, as always, we want to make sure we're using the race strategy, which I'll put it right up here. I almost put the wrong thing for that last part. So it says, how does the author make distinctions between the different types of automobiles she discusses in the article? Now, what does distinctions mean? How does she explain the differences? How does she separate the different types of automobiles that she's discussing? So what I'm going to do, because I want you guys to get more practice with short answer, because there's really not a short answer question on this last section you guys are going to do on your own. So I also want you to do number 5 on your own, but we will start the restating process. So how does the author make distinctions between the different types of automobiles she discusses in the article? So we would say the author makes distinctions between the different types of automobiles she discusses in the article by, couldn't spell there for a second. And then you need to tell me how the author makes distinctions between the different types of automobiles. So how does she separate the different types of automobiles to discuss the different types of automobiles? And then you need to cite 2 pieces of evidence and explain how that evidence supports that answer. Okay? And then after you guys do the short answer, because I just want you guys always to have more practice with short answer questions, then you guys are going to go to 56 through 60 and answer those on your own. So that's going to be the last of this packet. And then next week, we start on 4 days a week, so we'll be going Tuesday through Friday. And sorry, I'm like losing my words. And you guys will hopefully get that new packet, or hopefully maybe you already have got it. That would be great. So yeah, if you guys need me, have any questions on any of these, 56 through 60, or the short answer question, I am available during office hours as always. And if you need me outside of office hours, you can reach out to me then also.